So guys, today we got to talk about something, and Paige Bueckers in an interview literally exposed just how bad the referee's problem is. Like, she just exposed how bad it was in a pre-game interview for the game.
And I'm here to tell you, in the last 4 games, Caitlin Clark has only been to the foul line maybe 6 times. How do the most ball-dominant point guard only go to the foul line 6 damn times? I don't know what the situation is, if they just don't see the calls or they're just ignoring the calls. At the end of the day, there is a systematic issue wrong with the WNBA, the current state of their referees, and Caitlin Clark.
The WNBA tried to ignore it. The refs stayed silent, but one rookie just blew the whistle and exposed everything. Paige Bueckers didn't just defend Caitlin Clark, she exposed the ugly truth behind the league's broken system. And now, there's no turning back. Something finally broke. And it wasn't Caitlin Clark, despite the hits she's taken all season. It wasn't the fans, though they've come close. It was Paige Bueckers, a rookie, a respected peer, and someone who's seen both sides of the game, who finally stood up and said what so many others were too afraid to. Her words weren't whispered behind closed doors or tossed out in passing. They came during a national broadcast, with the cameras rolling, and they cut deep. "I had to relearn how to play defense by fouling more," she said. Not because she wanted to, not because it made her better, but because, in the WNBA, the refs were letting everything go. That one sentence wasn't just criticism, it was a wake-up call, a damning, undeniable truth that something is seriously broken in this league. And at the center of it all, Caitlin Clark. Now, if you've been watching the WNBA this season, you've probably noticed something's off, something that feels bigger than just a few missed calls. Clark, one of the most high-profile rookies the league has ever seen, isn't getting the kind of calls you'd expect for a player constantly driving into traffic, taking contact, and initiating offense every possession. In fact, over her last 4 games, she's only made it to the free throw line 6 times. 6. That's not just an oversight, that's a pattern, that's neglect. And when fans started pointing it out, they were labeled dramatic or biased. But then Paige spoke up, and when a peer, especially one with Bueckers' credibility, says the same thing fans have been screaming for weeks, it's no longer a hot take, it's confirmation. The Dallas game served as the tipping point. It wasn't just a physical matchup, it was a full-on spotlight moment, the kind of nationally televised contest where everyone from league execs to casual fans is watching closely. And what they saw was hard to ignore. Clark was fouled 5 times in a single sequence before the refs finally blew the whistle. ESPN analysts Rebecca Lobo and Ryan Ruocco couldn't stay neutral anymore. They started counting them out loud during the broadcast. Here's a hold, there's a swipe, that's contact across the arm. It wasn't speculation, it was frame-by-frame, live-on-air evidence. The kind you can't edit or hide. If this were any other league, someone would be on the phone the next morning. Instead, WNBA leadership remained silent. Paige Bueckers, though, didn't, and that's what changed the tone. Her words didn't come from frustration, they came from observation. She just played Clark. She'd just seen, up close, how different the game was when it came to guarding her. And her response? "You have to relearn how to play defense in this league. You foul and the refs let it go." That's not just bad officiating, that's systemic failure. That's a league letting physicality overtake the fundamentals. And when players have to choose between clean defense and what the refs will tolerate, they're not playing basketball anymore. They're playing survival. But it doesn't stop at just bad calls. There's a psychological layer here that Bueckers pulled the curtain back on. She described the expectations on Clark as inhumane. And she's not wrong. Clark has been marketed as the face of the league, the generational rookie, the ratings magnet. And with that label comes pressure, mountains of it. She's expected to drop 30, dish 10 assists, hit logo threes, and do it all with a smile. If she has an off night, if she's even a little human, it becomes a headline. And all the while, she's getting hit, grabbed, body checked, and shoved. The pressure is enough to break most athletes. But Clark's kept going. She's remained poised, composed, and focused. But that doesn't mean it's okay. and Paige knew it. What made Bueckers' comments so effective wasn't just the content, it was the timing. This didn't come after a practice or offhand in an interview. It came after she and Clark shared the court. It came while national interest was sky high. She had the spotlight and she used it. And she didn't just vent, she explained. She broke it down. She pointed to freedom of movement. She compared the league to college, saying she could get away with far more here than she ever could at UConn. That's not how professional basketball should work. The pros are supposed to be cleaner, more precise, more consistent. Instead, the WNBA, in Bueckers' words, is less disciplined. That's not a small problem. That's foundational. For too long, there's been a strange silence among players. Sure, fans have posted viral clips of missed calls. Analysts have occasionally hinted at inconsistencies. But the players themselves? They've mostly stayed quiet. Until now, Bueckers cracked that wall. And she did it not with emotion, but with facts, with experience, with first-hand knowledge. And because of who she is, a top rookie, a well-respected athlete, someone who's earned her voice, people listened. The reactions came fast. Social media exploded. Fans who had been labeled dramatic suddenly had receipts. Analysts started replaying her quote. Clips of Clark getting tackled with no whistle were stitched together with Bueckers' soundbite and shared millions of times. It wasn't just a moment, it became a movement. And suddenly, what was once whispered was now trending. And here's the real issue. When referees refuse to call obvious fouls, they're not just failing one player, they're altering the outcome of games. They're creating an environment where physicality is rewarded and skill is punished, where hacking becomes strategy, where talent is neutralized by brute force. That's not just unfair, it's dangerous. When players know they can get away with anything, they will. And that's how injuries happen. That's how careers get shortened. That's how stars, like Clark, get sidelined. Clark isn't asking for special treatment. Nobody is. But what she does deserve is consistency. If a hand check is a foul for one player, it should be for all. If arm contact draws a whistle on offense, it should on defense too. That's the basic expectation. And yet, night after night, we see Clark taking hits that go unnoticed, while minor bumps against her are called immediately. It's a double standard, a quiet, creeping bias. And Paige Bueckers just lit it up for the world to see. And still, Clark delivers. She puts up elite numbers. She facilitates her team's offense. She pulls defenders way beyond the arc and stretches the floor like few can. She brings in ratings and new fans every night. She's single-handedly introduced millions of new viewers to the WNBA. And what does she get in return? Elbows to the ribs, slaps to the arm, clotheslines that go unpunished. And worst of all, silence from the very institution that should be protecting her. It's not just about Clark anymore. This is about the WNBA's future. If this league wants to be taken seriously by fans, media, sponsors, and athletes, it needs to clean this up. It needs to own the problem, to investigate it, to address it publicly. Because the longer this goes unchecked, the more credibility it loses. If the most watched player in the league can't get a fair whistle, what hope is there for anyone else? Even the broadcasters are starting to turn. Rebecca Lobo didn't just mention the fouls. She listed them. Play by play, replay by replay. Ryan Ruocco, usually composed, sounded frustrated. When the people paid to stay neutral start calling out officiating on air, you know it's bad. You know it's systemic. And yet, league leadership has remained quiet. No statements, no accountability, just more silence. And that silence is the loudest failure of all. Because this could have been avoided. The league could have reviewed footage, addressed concerns quietly, retrained refs behind the scenes. But instead, it doubled down. It ignored it. It dismissed fan concern as noise. And now, that noise is deafening. What Paige Bueckers did took courage. It took awareness. And it took a sense of responsibility that we should all respect. She didn't have to say anything. She could have played the game, smiled for cameras, and moved on. But she didn't. She spoke up. For Clark, for fairness, for the integrity of the game. And that's what makes this moment bigger than basketball. Because what happens next matters. Will the league listen? Will it improve officiating standards? Will it protect its stars, regardless of how polarizing or popular they may be? Or will it continue pretending everything's fine while its credibility burns? One voice started this. One moment of honesty. One rookie who refused to stay silent. And now the pressure is on everyone else to follow. The fans are watching. The media is watching. The players are watching. And Caitlin Clark, whether protected or not, will keep playing like the generational talent she is. But that doesn't mean she should have to do it alone.